Welcome to Mr. Biz Radio, biz talk for biz owners. If you're ready to stop faking the funk and take your business onward and upward, this show is for you. And now, here's Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Biz Radio with me, Mr. Biz, Ken Wentworth. And this week we're going to talk about something that's was very intriguing to me. So I talked to our guest a few months back, let's say. And his concept behind the book that he wrote really was very intriguing to me. And we've talked about a lot of things that are sort of around this subject area, but nothing like this. I mean, this is a very unique approach, and I'm really looking forward to it. We're going to talk about brain glue. So you're probably wondering, like, what the heck is that? Well, stay tuned and you're going to find out. So our guest this week, and I didn't ask you this before, James, but I assume you used the middle initial to avoid the obvious thing. So our guest this week is Mr. James Bond, not that James Bond, James I. Bond. He is one of America's leading behavioral management and business marketing specialists. For 13 years, he's run one of Southern California's leading behavioral management firms, working with a who's who of American business. Early in his career, he ran an advertising agency in Montreal, and he is a past workshop chairman for the resource partner of the U.S. Small Business Administration. He has also been a featured guest speaker at 3 Southern California, universities. James, welcome to Mr. Biz Radio.
Ken, thank you for having me. Your podcast rocks. It's awesome.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So been looking forward to having you on. I know we booked you back here a few months ago and been looking forward to having you on. But before we dive into brain glue and everything that includes, tell us a little bit about your journey. We talked about some of it in the intro here, but tell us about your entrepreneur and your career journey.
Well, I discovered something that's blowing people's minds and changing the way they sell and sell their ideas and products. It's amazing that when people discover this, they start to realize, well, I can persuade people too. I mean, it's so broad. I'll throw some examples at you and then we can talk about like how I figured this out. But if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit. Helped O.J. Simpson get freed from an almost certain guilty verdict in a murder trial. You know, They were like, two of the jurors were being interviewed, and the interviewer said, well, with all that evidence against O.J., why do you find him not guilty? And with confidence, they went, we knew if the glove don't fit, you must acquit. The glove didn't fit, you have to acquit. And so that's a rhyme, okay? But it's really powerful. How about this one? The whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. It was Wonder Bread in the beginning of the 20th century was a blockbuster. They invented sliced bread. So when people often say, well, that's the greatest thing since sliced bread, we don't realize it, but we're actually referring to Wonder Bread. And for 10 years, Wonder Bread dominated the bread industry because they created the whole concept of sliced bread and all that. But there was an illness. We had COVID. Well, they had this thing called pellagra. And it was when you have an absence of vitamin B3, you get this illness, which is very similar to COVID. And so the competitors realized that because they bleached the bread white, it kills all the vitamins and minerals. And so when you have an absence of vitamin B3, today they use niacin. If we see niacin, it's because they're adding vitamin B3 because it strengthens our immune system and everything. Mm-hmm. But the competitors were really, they hated their competitor, Wonder Bread. And they finally, when pellagra came out, they started promoting it to all the newspapers. And almost every newspaper in the country ran this headline: the whiter your bread, the quicker you're dead. And then it talks about what they were saying. So it's like, what? I mean, people in politics use some of these tools. And I'll tell you how some of these tools work. But first, how I figured it out. I worked with Warren Buffett, and he said, and his team, and he loved this line. He said, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. What did he just say?
I love it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Naked is a trigger
right? You're like, wait a minute, what's that mean? Oh, wait. Oh, it makes perfect sense.
Exactly. But it wakes up your brain. They have this, and using this makes you make a ton of money. I didn't realize this when I started uncovering this. But so Blue Emu is anti-arthritis cream. And so I have a TV next to my computer, so I'm working. For some reason, I had it on. I normally don't have it on while I'm doing work. And they had an ad for Blue Emu. It had a Johnny Bench, I think it was a famous baseball player, who was talking, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't even listening until he said this: Blue Emu, it works fast and you won't stink. what did he just say? And you won't stink? What? And from that moment forward, I was watching that commercial in detail to figure out what the heck is he saying. And so I'm originally from Montreal. I worked my way up as an advertising agency. Okay, I had a small advertising agency, but I worked my way up and won major clients. This is ages ago, 40 years ago. Okay, I'm old. What can I say? And I discovered, and so I learned the hard way that selling works better when it's emotional, not logical. Okay. Zig Ziglar had a great line. He said, selling is nothing more than a transference of passion. And so I worked my way up. I won major clients eventually, Kraft Foods, Timex Watches, Avon Cosmetics, Seagram's, their world headquarters is there. And so I had the opportunity to win the anti-drug campaign in America. And I came up with powerful, logical reasons why you should not do drugs. And they liked me, from the work I did. And I had logic. And then I saw the ad that beat us, and it scared the heck out of me. And why did it scare me? First, it was infinitely more powerful than my ads. Okay, mine were logical. This was emotional. And the second thing was it scared me because this was emotional selling, and I didn't know how to do emotional selling. And it was a guy holding an egg saying, "This is your brain," and cracks the shell and drops the egg into a sizzling frying pan. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? And it really scared the Jesus out of me. What can I say?
Right.
I mean, it was like, how do you do that? I'm in advertising, I'm in business, and I don't know how to do emotional selling. And so I created this passion box. I said, I love the 3x5 cards because you could write things on a 3x5 card. And so I would write on a 3x5 card, your brain on drugs. So I'd remember the ad. And I realized they don't teach in school how to do emotional selling or anything like that. So what I did was I created a box right next to my computer. I called it the passion box. And every time I saw an ad or heard something that was awesome, I'd put it in the passion box in the hopes of eventually having enough samples to figure out how it works, how emotional selling works.
Yeah.
After about 10 years, I moved with my family to Southern California, and I met John Gray. And John Gray is an author, and he was telling me how frustrated he was. He wrote this book, Men, Women, and Relationships. And when people read the book, it blew their minds. They said, this is the best relationship book. It's strengthening my relationship with my wife or my husband, whatever it was. And it was just incredible. He said, but almost nobody was buying it. And then I got the crazy idea. What if I changed the title to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? There's a whole story behind how he came up with that, in one of his pitches. Yeah. But he said, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. And the book skyrocketed. I have a friend, Steve Harrison, who helped him with marketing. And Steve was telling me he went from 20,000 to 50 million, not 50,000, 50 million copies sold, all because he changed the title. Oh, I thought my brain was going to explode. It's like, what? And, and then I realized when I got home, this is a metaphor, I mean, this is, men aren't really from a different planet, although some people think we are.
That's right. Yeah.
Women mostly.
There's a lot of women and wives that maybe would argue that, James, I'm sure.
I know. We're not really.
Yeah. So guys, we're going to hit a break here. We're going to continue talking about brain glue. Great examples from James. I've got, some of the things that you mentioned are just iconic, and they've survived decades. Like I remember each one of those things you mentioned, James. So we're going to hit a break here again. We'll come back talking with James I. Bond. You can find out more at yesbrainglue.com.
If you would like to reach hundreds of thousands of business owners every week, Mr. Biz Radio can help. Our show airs globally 7 days a week for more than 25 hours across several internet radio stations, plus 20 plus podcast platforms. Also, video exposure on the new exclusive Mr. Biz Network streaming channel, which gets blasted to 100 plus streaming platforms, and the Mr. Biz YouTube channel, and our 350,000 social media followers multiple times every week. Join Mr. Biz Nation as an advertiser by emailing us at info@MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit GetPulseTools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Check out all 3 of Mr. Biz's best-selling books at MrBizBooks.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, welcome back to the show. Again, talking with James Bond, not that James Bond, not Mr. 007, but James I. Bond. And again, we'll put this in the show notes, but you can find out more at his website, yesbrainglue.com. You can check out his book, obviously. Brain Glue, if you're watching the video, you can see in the background, he's got a copy of it there. So James, you mentioned several things during that first segment. And as soon as you mentioned the U.S. Anti-drug thing, I'm not even making this up. The first thing I thought of was that frying pan, that skillet. And I thought, wow, James came up with this. And then, but here's the interesting part about this, and the entrepreneurial side of this is that your evolution of Brain Glue and things like that came from essentially, failure is too strong of a word, but a swing and a miss, right? Yeah. You were trying to land that, it didn't, and you saw what won, and you're like, holy crap, that's amazing. And I'll tell you, I struggled with exactly what you were talking about. When I first left the corporate world, I worked at JP Morgan for a long time, and they're generally speaking a bunch of numbers nerds like me, right? And so when you're trying to pitch a budget or you're trying to get a project approved or whatever, it's logic because of the type of people that you're talking to. They want to hear logic. They want to hear ROI. They want to hear, how much money we're going to save, how much additional revenue, things like that. And so I had done that my entire corporate career. And then I leave and become an entrepreneur, and I've still got the same mindset. And so it's like, well, yeah, I'm going to just show people logically, like how working with me can help them. And an exact same thing. Crickets. And I'm like, and I rewrite it a little bit, and I'm like, this is amazing. And I've got, so here's the other part. You'll probably appreciate this. I had people that I used to work with that think like me, right? Very logical approach. I had them read it. I'm like, what's wrong with this? And they're like, this is amazing. This sounds awesome. Like I would sign up right away, because they're much less emotional type people, right? They're just very fact-based, black and white. And then I started to discover things like you have, like you're talking about with the emotional selling, and the difference. Saying it's night and day doesn't even do it justice. I mean, just like you mentioned with Men Are From Mars, Women Are From, I mean, that changed from 20,000 to 50 million. I mean, think about the impact that had. So is that sort of, as you developed and were writing down those ideas over 10 years, is that sort of what helped you develop Brain Glue?
Absolutely. And in fact, and this is the thing that's so important for me, because I've worked with big companies as well as individuals working out of their garage. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are tons of examples of people who are massively rich and wealthy right now who had almost no money, but they came up with a trigger word or a name or a title for their product, and suddenly sales exploded. I have this mom and son in Utah who love Shark Tank, which a lot of us love Shark Tank. And so they came up with this idea of like, wouldn't it be cool if we can invent a product and, get on Shark Tank? Man, we could become millionaires, because they get rich. And so, okay, fine. And so the mom, they're thinking, it took about a month to come up with the product idea. The mom is constipated. And so the doctor told her, I don't want to get too much into this, but the doctor told her, when you're on the toilet, if you raise your feet 6 to 8 inches off the floor, it changes the shape of your body, and it actually really helps you when you go to the bathroom. She tried it, and it worked. And so they went, wow, this would be really cool. We'll make this little stool that wraps around the toilet, and whenever you want, you could slide it out and put your feet on it. Oh, wow, what a great thing. So they found a manufacturer nearby that can make it and make some mold for them and everything else. And it cost them a few $1,000s, but that was it. And they'd never sold anything before. And they said, we need to come up with a really cool name. So, okay, it's a toilet stool. We don't want to call it toilet stool. That's a logical term. Okay, the toilet stool. My wife said, call it the stool, but I don't think that's a good name. Okay. And, but they're thinking, so what's another word for toilet? Potty.
Yep.
And you're squatting. Oh, Squatty Potty. Let's call it the Squatty Potty. They have no business experience. Within 2 years, they had more than $100 million of sales. I mean, look at all of us, guys, gals. Which one of us had $100 million of sales? And they have no experience, but they came up with a name that's really You know, I was at,
Same,
go
same
ahead.
thing, James. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but same
No.
thing. So as soon as you started to tell the story, I knew exactly what you meant. I knew exactly the product. And I will tell you, I think I'm probably safe to say this. Our middle daughter, who she calls our kids, we have Junior Biz, we have Little Biz, and Kid Biz. That's my 3 daughters, right? So Junior Biz, she got one of these. One of her friends got one, a Squatty Potty. She swears by it, right? So she's got one for like every place she goes. And then she started buying for her friends. She's like, you guys, this is a life changer. You guys won't believe this. This is crazy, right? But the name, so not only does it have rhyming in it, like you had mentioned a little bit during the first segment, but it's a clever name. And it's not, toilet stool doesn't sound very cool. That sounds, Squatty Potty. It's kind of has a catchy name and it rhymes and things like that. And so, but yeah, I mean, and seeing the success that it had once they got onto Shark Tank and how it's continued, right? I mean, not to be too crass about it, but that's something that's not going away. People are going to continue to have to go to the bathroom, right? And so the staying power of that, but to your point, that name, like changing the book name, right? I mean, how powerful that is.
And when we discovered there are certain things, if I said Jack and Joe went up I said to my grandson, and he said, hill to fetch a pail of water. I mean, I learned it 60 years ago. I'm old.
Right.
What can I say? And if I'm on my deathbed, you can say, hey, Jack and Joe went up the hill to fetch a pail. I mean, it sticks to the brain. There are certain things that stick to the brain. And it's amazing when you start applying it, you start making a ton of money, more money than you ever thought. I mean, let me give you a quick example. Wouldn't it be fun if you invented this amazing product, somebody you hate steals it from you, and they make a fortune while you starve to death? Wouldn't that be fun? Yeah, no. Okay. But so Post Cereals competes with Kellogg's. And so the head of Post Cereals said, let's come up with this, something totally different from what we're doing right now, like besides cereal, so we can beat Kellogg's. And he came up with this idea. It's a cake that has jam inside it, like, strawberry, blueberry, raspberry. You put it in a toaster. And when it comes up out of the toaster, everybody knows what I'm talking about, but they decided to call it Country Squares. Okay. And 3 months before he launched it, he said, we have this new product coming out. Look at it. You put it in your toaster, it comes up. We call it Country Squares. And they showed it. The head of Kellogg saw it, fell in love, said, guys, everybody, look at this product. We need to make the same product. Okay. But we need to come up with a better name. Okay. And so they're thinking about it. Well, it pops out of the toaster, so it has to be pop something. And Andy Warhol was a famous artist. They call him pop artist. Okay. So that's something called anchoring, where you take something that's already in the brain and use that. And so he called it Pop-Tarts.
Mm-hmm.
Pop-Tarts, he launched it 1 week before Country Squares got launched. Their sales exploded, and Pop-Tarts, within a few months, they even stopped selling it because nobody was buying Country Squares. Everyone was buying Pop-Tarts. In fact, they even ran out of product. They had to run apologies in newspapers. We're so sorry. Just hang on. But yeah, just the name. The name makes such a difference. And the slogan. We could talk about that too. Yeah,
super powerful. Guys, we're going to hit another break here, but I want to talk in the next segment. We're going to talk about, how to utilize some of this brain glue to be able to sell better. And I'm gonna give you a little bit of tease to you, James, as well. I want to ask you about, because we talked about some rhyming, we talked about alliteration. There's another ad campaign that was very successful from Wendy's, Where's the Beef, that has stuck around as well. I'm sure that has something to do with this as well. So I want to talk about that in the next segment.
How would you like to have direct access to Mr. Biz to help you run your business more profitably and more efficiently? At MrBizSolutions.com, you get live access to not only Mr. Biz, but also several of his hand-picked and trusted business experts, each with 20 plus years of experience to help you optimally manage and grow your business. That's just the start of where Mr. Biz Solutions begins. Learn more at MrBizSolutions.com. That's MrBizSolutions.com.
Attention, Mr. Biz Nation. We have an exclusive offer just for you. Get lifetime access to scarcity countdown timers and logic links for only $69. Yes, you heard it right. Only $69. These tools will add urgency to your email campaigns and website pages, helping you increase conversions, sales, and capture more leads. Don't miss this incredible opportunity. Visit getpulsetools.com now and take your business to new heights.
Got a question for Mr. Biz you want answered on air? Email it to info@MrBizSolutions.com. Now, once again, here's Mr. Biz.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Talking this week with James I. Bond, not 007, but James I. Bond. You can follow, by the way, I didn't mention this before. Check him out on LinkedIn as well. Follow him on LinkedIn, and then go to yesbrainglue.com. Again, we'll put that in the show notes as well. But I talked about this a little bit at the end of the last segment, James. I got to ask because, producer Alan and I are based in the Columbus, Ohio area. Wendy's hamburger joint, whatever, was founded here and still has their headquarters here. And they had this iconic ad way back, gosh, mid-90s maybe, something like that, that was Where's the Beef, right? It was some older ladies that got it, and they get a hamburger from another place, and they open it up in the bun, and the hamburger is like, a third of the size of the bun. Like there's a whole bunch of bun and just a little bit of burger. And she says, "Where's the beef?" And they, Wendy's uses like, "Hey, look, our hamburger hangs off the bun." And it was an iconic thing that, I think anyone who's over the age of whatever, 40, 45 probably remembers it with a lot of humor because it was so funny too. The clientele, it was some older ladies, like retired ladies. It was kind of funny. How does that fit into all this as well?
So there's something called sense elevation. Okay. When I said Pop-Tarts, the first thing you hear is a sound, pop. It pops out of the toaster. They said a pop has to be in it because, there's a song, Smells Like Teen Spirit. Okay. Yep. Kurt Cobain. Fabulous song, but smells like Teen Spirit? Ugh, what is that smell? Yeah. It's emotion, okay? So they want to say our hamburgers are much more than the other hamburgers. So the first thing we're going to do is a metaphor. It's so small, it's like a pea on a thing. So you use a metaphor first, just like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because men really aren't from Mars. Just I hope not. Anyway, I don't think we are. So they're going, so visually what happens? So you open up this thing and you go like, whoa, it's tiny. It's like okay. So what would we say with sense elevation? Where's the beef? That's a natural thing because you open it up and it's so tiny. Where's the beef? Oh, wow, let's have fun with it. They use sense elevation. So like M&M's melts in your mouth, not in your hands, Yeah. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Alka-Seltzer.
Yeah. Another one.
Sense, okay. It's giving you sense. So you're like, what happens if you open this thing up? So there are two tools here. Sense elevation is the first one where you want to make it so that it's, like Blue Emu works fast and you won't stink. What did he just say? Stink. And it's a trigger word, but it wakes.
And for people who don't know, I'm sure the play on that was, so another balm at that time was Ben Gay. And Ben Gay smelled awful. Yeah. It smelled awful. It worked pretty well, but the smell was just terrible. So Blue Emus, I'm sure thinking like, hey, ours is just as good. And you're not going to smell like, some analgesic balm, or whatever as you're walking around.
That's right. Well, and that's the key is it's in a sense, if you can elevate the sense. So Steve Jobs, when he launched the Macintosh, the first one, he wanted it to talk, even though it's not really a talking thing. He wanted to make it feel like it's a robot. Mm-hmm. So he takes the towel off the computer and he goes, "Oh, good. I'm glad it was not fun being inside that blanket. Hello, And he actually fought to make sure that they did that. They said it was so hard to do. I don't care. I want to do that because I want to make it seem like so futuristic. Mm-hmm. And so sense elevation is really important if we can wake up the brain. And so that's why you're going to ask me. And so I'll give you some examples of this of like, how can everybody apply this right now? Because I'm throwing a lot of things at them. And there are a lot. There's 15 in my book. It actually shows you examples. So people start going, oh, wow. And then they go, there's an exercise that makes it easy for you to create one for yourself. Okay. So I'll give you a quick story on this. So one of the things I love is metaphor. And there's a guy who created an electric razor for men's private areas. I don't want to get too much into this, okay, guys or gals, but he wanted to come up with a name for this thing. And so he's thinking, I don't want to offend people, but I want people to know how this works. So what am I going to call it? It's kind of like a lawnmower. Why don't I call it the lawnmower? He changed the name of his company to Manscaped. You landscape a man with the lawnmower. If I called my friend and I said, hey, I didn't buy one, by the way. If I did, I wouldn't share it. But I can see calling my friend saying, hey, Joe, guess what I just bought? What? The lawnmower. Why? You need to mow your lawn? No, it's for men's private areas. He started laughing and called his wife, hey, Mary, guess what James just bought? What? The lawnmower. Well, he has to mow his lawn? No. And he'd say that, and it would just pass on. It could go viral, actually. But that's a metaphor. Okay, it's not really a lawnmower. Just like Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus is not really a lawn. It's not really true. I hope we're not, actually. Maybe we are from a different planet.
And the other thing, James, I think that the manscape aspect of it is, I think it also appeals to logic in some regards, at least tangentially, because when you hear the word manscape, if you've never heard it before, you're like, manscape? Okay, so like landscape. I think logically in your brain, you start to think about, landscaping for men, what would that be? And you probably kind of draw your own conclusions as to what the product is.
Right. And that's exactly what, I call it 6 seconds selling to stimulate the brain. Okay. I have people talk to me all the time, and I'm saying, well, what kind of business do you have? What kind of product do you have? And they'll talk for 20 minutes before I finally go, oh, that's what it is. And we have to understand, you have 6 seconds to wake up the brain so they go, oh, tell me more. That's interesting. And if you do that, then you have a better chance of selling. And that's why, so some of the tools, if you guys want to try to use these tools, you guys and gals out there, then start with a metaphor. My product or idea is just like, and be as crazy as possible. Have fun with it. Okay. It's, my book grabs your attention like a naked man running through your backyard. If you saw a naked man running through your backyard, would that grab your attention? How would you like your product to have that money to grab your attention? Okay. So that's the first thing, is a metaphor. Then there's things like alliteration, or repetition of sound. I didn't realize how many people use this. Coca-Cola, Best Buy, PayPal, TikTok. Biden's Build Back Better. I don't know if you're like or don't like Biden. That doesn't matter. But think it's an accident that they came up with it? No. A lot of politicians understand these are the tools, alliteration, repetition of sound. So let's say your name is Lucille Ball, and you're going to create a TV show for yourself, okay? You and your husband. My name is, they call me Lucy. Lucy. What's another word that begins with L? Like, love. I love Lucy. There we go. It sticks to the brain. Her and her husband, the Desilu Productions produced Star Trek. It repeats the sound. Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible. You think it's a coincidence that they use alliteration? No. They understand this sticks to the brain like glue. Marilyn Monroe. Norma Jean Mortensen changed her name to Marilyn Monroe. Remember Chevy Chase?
Yeah.
You think it's a coincidence? No, it's just, it sticks to the brain. And that's why start with a metaphor. My product or idea is just like, and have fun with it. It's just like, and be as crazy. Come up with the craziest idea possible. If you don't want to use that, at least it gets you started. And then come up with, what are words that rhyme with what my product or service is, and what are, alliteration, what are some sounds? And when you start doing that, you start having amazing discoveries of like, wow, this is a great way I want to sell my product or idea. And in most of the people that I've talked to, it blew their minds how much money they make.
So we're running out of time here, but so 3 examples where we've used it. One of the things that I talk about is a product or service that's it's break even or loses you money. We started calling it the silent business killer. All of a sudden people are like, wait a minute, what's that? My first book was How to Be a Cash Flow Pro. The second book was Pathway to Profits. Third book was Don't Fake the Funk. So again, I'm using a lot of the things you're talking about, James. Guys, James, this has been amazing. Really appreciate you coming on. We're out of time here, but I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, Ken, thank you so much for having me. Love this your podcast rocks.
Appreciate it, man. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your week. And don't forget, as always, cash flow is king.
To become part of Mr. Biz Nation, follow him on all social media platforms or never miss a show by going to MrBizRadio.com. If you prefer free video content, visit the Mr. Biz YouTube channel or check out his streaming channel, which is available on 100 plus streaming platforms at MrBizNetwork.com.